Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be delving into the world of Alien Covenant. I know we've not spoken about Alien Covenant for some time, but something which surfaced online kind of a while ago now. It was on avpgalaxy.net. I'll leave a link to them in the description box. But it was the screenplay for essentially the prologue scene for Alien Covenant, which, if you weren't aware, there was a prologue used as part of the viral marketing which actually showed David interacting with Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. Now, some people are not aware of this, so again, I'll leave a link to that in the description box, but you can find it on YouTube. It's quite easy there. And you can see David interacting with Elizabeth Shaw and then going into the planet Paradise to go and essentially bomb the life forms there. Now, a big question on a lot of people's lips once the movie released was, what did David do to Dr. Shaw? Some of that was filled in when we saw some footage released from the special features, which confirmed David did kill her and then used her as a test subject for the xenovirus, the black pathogen. Now, this screenplay actually reveals how he killed her and in what manner he killed her in. Now, of course, this screenplay isn't the direct adaptation for the prologue, so this technically isn't canon, but a lot of what is in this is used for the prologue, so you can kind of see that the prologue's a condensed version of this. So although the canon isn't definitely confirmed, it's half and half confirmed. Now, one of my most popular videos, I think it had like 1.5 million views, was what did David do to Elizabeth Shaw? So I thought I would revisit that, but with clear-cut confirmation today, and actually read part of the screenplay for you. So here, as part of my series in movies that never came to be, or just deleted scenes and things like that, here we have the screenplay Paradise by John Logan. We open much in the same way as the prologue. We have the engineer Dreadnought and Shaw and David on board the ship. However, what's different here is that David is just the head, and we learn that Shaw was afraid of him. Why? Because one day she found him trying to put himself back together, trying to reassemble himself, and quote Elizabeth Shaw, she believed she was in danger. As such, she fell into a depression, and she states again, I've been alone ever since. Now, one of the best things about this screenplay is it actually reveals a lot about the inner workings of the ship. Inside the ship there was a form of water room, water being generated from somewhere, and it fell into a reflecting pool. This is where Dr. Elizabeth Shaw would drink, and then interestingly enough there would be vines growing up along the thick curved walls into a vertical jungle which gave the passengers of the engineer vessel fruits. Now again, this is what Shaw was eating. This is how she stayed alive on this journey to the world Paradise. Which answers the question, what were they doing on board? Which is great because the screenplay answers that question. How did Elizabeth Shaw journey so far? Things like that. In the prologue scene, we saw David put her in cryostasis. Now this confirms that she was awake for at least a large chunk of it. Now, how David managed to convince Elizabeth Shaw to put him back together again, David in this is definitely unhinged, but you can see that he's not an idiot. He still knows to prey on Elizabeth Shaw's emotions. One lonely day, as Shaw is walking around the ship, David comes over the crackly radio and states, Dr. Shaw. He is naturally ignored, and he goes, don't worry, I'm still out here, just to confirm that he hasn't reassembled himself and he's nowhere near her. Shaw replies, I don't want to talk to you anymore, David. David says, I appreciate that. I just wanted to say goodbye. Dr. Shaw doesn't say anything. David continues, I don't have much time. Without my power systems connected, my consciousness will soon fail. I understand why you feared me. We always fear those things that are different from us. But I would never hurt you, Dr. Shaw. He is again ignored. David continues though, there is nothing for me to do out here but think, you see. I wonder if I've not gone a bit mad. But I understand something new today. Perhaps we are not so different, you and I. Shaw, drawn in by this conversation, can't help but reply, we are nothing like each other. David, I'm frightened too. Shaw stopped there, hesitating, listening. I don't want to die alone either, David says. I thought you could talk to me for a little while, about anything that pleases you, really. I just want to hear a voice as I die, and if you could pretend to be kind to me. And that's it. We don't learn any more of the interaction between them at that point, but then we do open in the next scene where Dr. Elizabeth Shaw is putting David back together again. This is something we have seen in the prologue, and David says pretty much what he says in the prologue. Try the green, green to green, red to red. It's meant to be simple. Shaw says, be quiet, I'm doing my best. So again, it's one of those things which we'd seen in the prologue, but we'd never seen fully fleshed out. Now, interestingly enough, in the screenplay, it seems to confirm that David has some self-repairing mechanism of some sort, because instantly when Shaw attaches some of the filaments together, the right wire connects, then another wire suddenly comes to life, and it searches and it finds its mate. Soon, the whole thing, a writhing mass of wires and cables, as David's head begins reattaching itself to his body. Now, as you can see, David's not an idiot. He has used Shaw's goodwill, good nature against her. The moment he's awake, though, he doesn't turn on her. There's still some continuation, and he puts on this facade. David, once he's put back together, says, is your hair new? Shaw, what? No. David, yes it is. I like it like that. It's just longer. David, being observant, no. It's cut on the bias now. Very chic. Shaw obviously just says thank you. David, struggling to get up off the table, he takes some steps, another firm, and slowly gets his footing. That's more like it, almost like my old self, whoever he was. You're very kind at heart, you know. Shaw, unnerved by all of this, are you going to kill me now? Why would I do that, Elizabeth? And David smiles as he says this. Now in the screenplay it confirms that months and months and months have passed, and the two of them are growing closer as a result of this interaction. However, they are now nearing the planet, and as they do this, David sets up a hologram video recording system to record a message from Elizabeth Shaw to anyone. Shaw says, what should I say? David, it's a holo diary. Say anything you want. Okay, so we're on our way to a new planet. We don't have any idea what we'll find, maybe a new home. We're going to need all the help we can get, so if anyone ever sees this, come find us. Now in the screenplay it confirms that they get more and more comfortable with one another. They're cooking meals, exploring the ship, washing in the water room. Then one day they are working side by side, chatting easily. And her hand reaches out. It takes David's, holds it for a moment, tears in her eyes, and David looks at her. Then in the next scene we see them curled together in one of the engineer's huge sleeping pods, asleep. It doesn't say that they out and out are lovers, but it says lovers perhaps. Intimate, certainly. And then we end this scene in the Dreadnought navigation room. Something which we have seen in the prologue, but again something a little bit different here. Shaw says, what will we find? And David says, I'm sorry. When we get there, the closer we get, the more I wonder if we're really supposed to meet our makers, our gods. David replies with, I met my creator, Mr. Wayland. I met him and I served him, but in the end he was unworthy of that service. Shaw asks if David resents that. David says, how can I? I was made for service. He looks at her, a hint of something darkly challenging in his eyes. But one does bridle, Elizabeth. One does aspire. And what do you aspire to, David? And then, as Shaw says that, the ship groans loudly and it nears a reddish sun. David, obviously knowing what's happened, says, I believe we've arrived. Shaw stands up, excited. Come on. They leave quickly. They enter into an observation deck and move towards the controls. David says, I'm sure they have landing protocols in place and communications. If we open the correct frequencies too, Shaw butts in. I want to see them. He sees she is holding tightly to a crucifix, and he smiles, her fervent eagerness, her faith. David, I think you should do the honors. He gestures towards the consoles, he steps forward, but she hesitates. And if they are no better than we are, again a line which was in the prologue, David just says, so long as they are no worse. She is then reassured and she smiles. As they watch out over the engineer world, they can see the humanoids going about their business, playing, working, so on and so forth. And David asks, is it what you imagined? Shaw, with tears in her eyes, says it's so much more. So much more. David says, it's good to see you cry. Shaw, shocked by this, glances at him. What? And then suddenly he reaches up and he brutally snaps her neck. She falls dead. He looms over her and David says, to what do you aspire? Is the correct grammar, by the way. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. And that's it. That is how Dr. Elizabeth Shaw died in this screenplay. Now, of course, this isn't canon, this isn't confirmed, but a lot of this was adapted into the prologue, as again, you can compare it if you've watched the two. This is a fantastic insight into what Alien Covenant could have been. I would have liked a movie just about this. This would have been an awesome film, I think, anyway. But I wanted to bring you this excerpt of what could have been, what we could have seen. What do you think about this? Would this have been better? Do you like the turn of David? I feel that this fleshes it out just that little bit more, gives it a little bit more dynamic, and makes a little bit more sense, to me anyway. So let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. As always, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, stay up to date on all the world of pop culture and movie news. Guys, if you like this video, give it a like and a share. I've been Mr. Age, take care.